Hey guys, it's Elizabeth on the Four Walls Podcast, and today I have Elena joining me. Welcome. Good morning.
Hi, so good to see you. Love listening to your podcast, and also it's just good to connect with a friend.
As always, me and Elena met a couple years back in the Midwest. Woohoo! And we have both since
Yes,
left.
yes, yeah. I'm also originally from New Jersey, and I know you spent some time out on the East Coast you were in Connecticut, so
hmm
different part of the East Coast. And then yes, met you in St. Louis when we both were there, and you weren't even living at the apartment complex that I met you at.
No,
Which
I
I
was
thought
just
was
a
so
freeloader.
funny. Yeah, I just like always saw you there and I was like, "Do you live here?" Um, but it's so funny. So like you're the same age as my younger sister, right? And like I never think about hanging out with my younger sister, but I was like, "Oh, Elizabeth's cool." Um, but yeah, and then now I'm actually in Salt Lake City. So I've been out here for a little over 2 years now. My 2 year mark was over Thanksgiving weekend.
Ooh, congratulations on 2 years.
It feels like it like hasn't been that long, but then I'm also just like 2 years is like it's a good chunk of time. I'm not gonna say it's like super long on the grand scheme of things, but it's a good chunk of time.
Yeah, I think especially for like moving to a new city and not being sure if you're really gonna stay there or not, I feel like 2 years is like, okay, you like it there.
Yeah, well, I'm still on the fence. I know that Salt Lake is not my forever home, but I don't know where I would move to next. That's like one of my issues. And then two, like I was saying before we started, I'm gonna learn how to snowboard this winter. So if there's a place I'm gonna do it, it may as well be here, right? And I don't know, maybe I'll like the winters more if I'm like outside and snowboarding versus I'm just like
Yeah.
cooped up in my apartment because it does get quite cold here, but I could also go winter hiking, but then there's like extra stuff you have to worry about with that. So I'm like, I haven't done any of that yet. But the next 9 months, because my lease ends at the end of September, but the
Mhm.
next 9 months I want to dedicate to like being in Salt Lake. Since I moved out here, I kind of have been like traveling quite a lot for different things, a lot of like going to national parks and like not being at home. So I feel like I just haven't had the best sense of like what Salt Lake City has to offer. So the next 9 months, I really want to like, I do have some trips planned, but I really want to like dedicate myself to like enjoying things around here.
Aw. And how has it been? So,
Um,
back to Utah. How has it been
yes.
making friends in a new city where you didn't really know anyone?
Yeah, so I moved out here without ever having visited, which is kind of scary. I guess I also moved to St. Well, no, I had visited St. Louis before I actually moved there because the company I started working for outside of college or out of college, I was still in Urbana-Champaign, which is where I went to undergrad. I was still there for like 6 months before I started in St. Louis. So they had an office, like a research center there. So I did visit St. Louis like once a month. But yeah, never visited Utah, never visited Salt Lake City. I kind of knew like one person. I had never met him before, but through my grad program, I met somebody who knew somebody who was living here. So like I met him after I moved here, like in person and stuff, but like, I got on the phone to talk with him and stuff, so and just like ask him his thoughts about Salt Lake City before I moved here. But yeah, so like one making friends as an adult in general, I think is really hard. I think, you have like your coworkers you could be friends with, right? If you want to be friends with your coworkers. Sometimes people don't, that's fine. And then like the hobbies that you have, which I one of my friends put this in a way that I think resonates with me a lot. I am outsidey, I am not outdoorsy. Like I like being outside. I like hiking. I like stargazing. I like going to national parks. But I don't like the way that people are outdoorsy here is like nuts. Like they're like super big into snow sports, doing like through hikes or like backpacking like it's a lot. It's a lot out here. Oh, and rock climbing's really big out here, which I unfortunately have a fear of heights, so like can't really get into rock climbing. But yeah, so like in general, I think making friends as adults is difficult. But then I think I had like kind of the added layer of not knowing anybody before I moved here, not having a social circle. But I have since then, I have in the last 2 years, like really made more friends just through different avenues. Um, there was like a Discord server for like SLC meetups that I was a part of last year. And that was pretty cool. Like I also learned that different cities have different Discord servers for that. So like highly recommend if anybody's looking for one in their city. I know the Meetup app is a thing here. I've never gotten on it just because, and I think you talked about it during one of your other podcasts with like a different guest, like the Meetup app. Out
Mhm.
here, apparently there's a lot of like MLM like meetups, the marketing, multi-level marketing, like the schemes. So it's
Yeah,
like
no.
it's like you think you're gonna like go meet people and then it turns out to be this like MLM pitch. So I never used that app, but I know that's pretty big out here too. And then I did meet people through like the gym. Well, I go to it's not women only, but it's primarily women. I've met a lot of great women there this year. Angelica is actually the one that recommended that I check it
Oh,
out.
nice.
And then I have like my media friends out here as well from like photography and stuff. So there's a big group chat with like all of us. There's like 70 people in that group chat. But I've like kind of like made friends with a couple of them. So I think it's just like it took time and like
Hmm.
patience, and also I think something that is really difficult about making friends like in a new place is like I mean in general just making friends, but you kind of have to like weave through like maybe some not so great people and see who
Hmm.
you really click with, and that takes time. So yeah, it is a lot of like effort and energy, but I feel happy with where I'm at now.
Yay! I love that. That especially moving to a new city and it's just like, okay, so where do I find my people?
Yeah, yeah, and I'm sure like how did you do it when you were because you were traveling quite a bit for travel nursing. So like how
Yeah.
did you meet your people?
I got really lucky. Got really lucky because, I wasn't really outside. I was just out of the country.
Hmm.
It was like during that point, I was working all the time. So, like, I really made a bunch of friends through work. Like, I just
Yeah.
happened to stumble across cool people, and I just kind of hung out with them. And then, like, I would live in, I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I don't like living alone.
Yeah.
So I would do like the roommate thing, and I just happened to meet some cool roommates. So it just all I got really really lucky in that
Yeah.
aspect of just having come by cool people. So I never really did the whole like apps or meetups or
Hmm.
I was either at work or traveling. So it kind of made it really simple.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of apps, I did forget Angelica. I don't know if you know this. I met her through Bumble BFF. She's the only friend that I am still in touch with via Bumble BFF because, like, you do. It is. I have heard from my guy friends that Bumble BFF does not work well for guys, but I do think it is
Mm.
really good for women if you are willing to put in that effort. It is essentially like dating, though. It's almost like another dating app, right? Like you have to like be responding to messages. You have to make plans to hang out. But yeah, so I like met her through that, and like we've just stayed
Mm.
friends. So there are there are options.
Yes, for sure. So I love that you're doing snowboarding now, but what are some of the other things that you've picked up since being in Utah?
So I've gone to, it's not necessarily like picking it up, but like I
Hmm.
have gone to a lot of national parks since I've been out here. There's a lot within driving distance. And when I say driving distance, I mean like, cause like I drove up to
I
Banff.
already know.
I drove up to Banff this summer, which is 15 hours.
I already know when you say, "Oh yeah, it's driving distance." A lot of people are gonna be like, "Girl, what?"
Well, okay, I will say I wanted to bring my dog with me. So we did like the whole border crossing and stuff. But yeah, so we did drive up to Banff. I was like, well, would it be easier for me to drive my car with me versus it would have been more expensive for me to like fly and then rent a car and then also find a pet sitter. The pet sitter is usually pretty expensive. So yeah, just exploring national parks. Utah has some beautiful national parks if you like deserts. Like it is
Mm.
very rocky, very deserty. I mean, you were down in Zion with me last
Hmm.
summer, and granted, like August is not the time to be in southern Utah.
actually liked it. I thought it was really good weather.
It was it just gets so hot down there. Like
Yeah, it was hot, but
it was hot. But like the pool at the Airbnb was nice. Like that was super helpful.
that
The
was
pool
such
was
a dope
helpful.
Airbnb.
I know, I think about it all the time. I'm like, should I just plan another trip back? Um, but yeah, I've been to well, and it is a little tough to go to all the national parks that are kind of around me just because they're not dog friendly. The ones in Canada are. So I was able to hike with Loki like in Banff, which is super cool. I do want to go back. The only thing with that was it was raining the day that I hiked. It was
No.
like downpour. And it also wasn't that warm. I think it ended up being like in the mid 40s. So I felt really bad for Loki because at some point he was just like standing there like shivering. And then my rain jacket was like completely soaked through. Like, so I do want to go back just so I can experience more of it without there being rain and like cold. I did drive out to Death Valley, so that was like
Mhm.
9 hours. 9 hours. I drove up to Seattle uh last summer. That was also 15 hours.
Hmm.
Yeah, lots of like national parks around. I've gotten super, super into stargazing out here,
Yeah.
which I did when I was in the Midwest, but it is so different out here because, well, one, especially during the summer, so the Milky Way is visible in the northern hemisphere, like the core of it is visible in the northern hemisphere from like April through October. So that's like the part that you usually see where it's like really bright, right?
Mhm.
You can always technically see a part of it like throughout the year, but like the core is like really visible April through October. And in the Midwest, I would still go on trips. I would go down to like Mark Twain National Forest, Shawnee National Forest. Those were really dark spots that were like 2.5 hours, 3 hours from St. Louis. But it was kind of like, I mean, same out here, but like you never know what you're gonna get weather-wise, right? And like
Mhm.
in the Midwest, there's a lot more potential for like thunderstorms during the summer. It's hot, it's humid, it's muggy. It's not like the best weather. Oh, and the mosquitoes during the summer, it's not the best time to just sit outside. But what's
No.
nice here is that even in the summers, like especially if I'm going up into the mountains at all, because it's at a higher elevation, it's
Mhm.
usually cooler at night, especially. So it's nice because then I don't have to deal with like the humidity. It's way
Mm.
drier out here. I
Mhm.
don't have to deal with the humidity at night. I don't have to deal with potential thunderstorms. The only thing I might have to deal with is if it's like cloudy or
Mhm.
if it's really dusty and there's like really bad like inversion and like air quality and stuff. But yeah, so I've gotten like super into stargazing since I've been out here. I have been to like southern Utah's a beautiful place for it. It is so so dark down there. Some of my favorite photos that I think I've ever taken were in Capitol Reef earlier this year. Obviously all the photos are always edited. Like I'm gonna put that out there, you know. Yes, we do edit our photos, but in Capitol Reef, like it was just so dark there, and like you could very clearly see like the core of the Milky Way and like just all these different things. So that was really neat being able to do that. I flew down to Austin and then met up with one of my friends and we drove out to Big Bend in September. Big Bend was on my list because it's one of like the really dark places in the continental US. But I timed it poorly because you know how the moon cycle is like 28 days and not actually a full calendar month? So like I went over a full moon and I was just like, dang, like so I planned this whole trip specifically so I could like stargaze. And the moon was full and like
Boom.
super bright. So I like couldn't see the stars. But it was cool. It was still cool in the sense that like with the moon being as bright as it was and with how little light pollution there was, like I did not need a flashlight at night. I could just like walk around in like moonlight. It was neat. But I don't know that I'm going back to Big Bend anytime soon. Just because it was like an 8 hour drive from Austin, you know?
Oh
So
dang.
it's kind of far. You're in Texas, it's pretty flat, like not super exciting. So if I had planned better, I'm sure it would have been great.
It's so sad. And when you do all that work and you're like, damn, I forgot a really key part.
Yeah. And like I'm usually pretty on top of like the
Yes.
moon in terms of like because I plan at least in Salt Lake, I plan like monthly stargazing events. So I'm like really on top of like when is the moon a new moon versus when is it a full moon versus if it's a quarter moon or less, like it's still worth going out to stargaze. I'm usually pretty on top of it, but for whatever reason, with like this Big Bend trip, I was just like, well, I'm just gonna choose this weekend and it'll be fine. And it was not fine, but I still really like being down there. It's a cool national park.
So what got you to make a thing to start hosting stargazing trips in Utah? That's really cool.
I would like talk to people about it here, and there are within like 90 minutes of Salt Lake City itself, like Salt Lake City proper, there's like 5 to 7 dark sky parks. So a dark sky park is like certified, like internationally certified, and basically it means that the park is taking, there are also like dark sky communities, so anything that has a certification means that they're taking active steps to reduce light pollution. So things like having less street lights, for example, having different color street lights, having the lights point down instead of like up, like things like that they're doing. And yeah, there's like 5 to 7 dark sky parks within like 90 minutes of Salt Lake City. So I think I said this. I'm not a big camper. Like sleeping on a bed. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be a comfortable bed. But I want to sleep on a bed. I really like showering. I like being clean. Things like that you don't necessarily get when you're camping. With all of like the parks nearby, you can go up into the mountains and like it's pretty dark up there too. I was like, oh, like, we could just do a couple hours over during the night, right? Like leave at
Hmm.
like 8, get there at 9, stay until 11, 12, whatever. Just drive back, sleep in beds. So yeah, I just started asking some friends if they wanted to do it, and then it kind of grew into this bigger thing. And like it's actually been really cool because there are some people that my friends, he was born and raised in Salt Lake City, and he like until last year when he came to an event that I hosted, he had never gone stargazing, right? And there's
Oh,
like a
wow.
lot of people that I talk to that are in a similar boat here where they've gone camping and they've seen the stars, right? But they've never actually like actively taken the time to just go see
Mhm.
the stars. And I personally think it's really important because you can be on your phone during it, but like your phone light will like mess up your eyes and like, when you have your eyes adjusting in the dark and stuff. So it's kind of a nice way just to take like 3 to 5 hours out of your day and just like chat with friends. I started getting into stargazing because I was like, I wasn't looking for the universe to like give me answers for anything, but I have found it's really, really helpful if I just need to think through things.
Mhm.
You're sitting out there. Some places I go don't have service, so I can't even be on my phone anyways. A lot of the places I do go have service. They're a little bit more like civilized, whatever. Yeah, I can't even like have service. So it's like, I'm like actively taking a step back, and I think that's resonated with a lot of people. But yeah, there are some people that like I've gotten closer to because we spend 60 minutes driving out to a location and then another 2 to 3 hours sitting out there and just like talking with each other. It's been really nice. Like, there are some people that I meet at like different events in Salt Lake, and I'm just like, oh, hey, I like host these. Like, you should come check it out. And I just post it to my Instagram story, and like,
Mhm.
people can like sign up for it and stuff. And then, I've like gotten closer with some people, or I've like learned more about people during those. It's been a really good way of connecting,
Yeah.
whether it's like with yourself or like with other people. Like I still go stargazing by myself, not as much as I used to in the Midwest, just because there's like something spooky about the desert that like isn't necessarily the same with like Midwest forests and stuff. So I do still go stargazing by myself, but like I do also really like going with friends. It's just we're all actively taking a step back from like life
Hmm.
to just be in each other's presence, like be in this moment. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Have you ever thought about opening it up to like the Discord community and like getting other people that maybe you don't know?
Yeah, so I did do that. My final event last October, there ended up being like 25 to 30 people that came, which is
Dang.
fine, but it was too much. It was
Mm.
like everyone was kind of chatting, which is fine. Like I have no issue with people talking, but I also do want it to be like peaceful.
Hmm.
And I did get feedback from some people that like because and I felt this way too, honestly, because there was so much like chatter, it was really hard just to like be in the moment and like
Hmm.
stare at the stars. So I usually like I would say I've been doing kind of smaller groups at this point, like I usually try and cap it at like 10 or 12 depending on like what park we're going to, like, and I do my research in terms of I'm like, okay, is there like gonna be space for us to sit? Like, can we all be comfy? That kind of stuff. And that influences like how many people I'm gonna cap it at. But yeah, this summer, like I did not get a group of 20 to 25 or 25 to 30. Like I think that was way too much, but I've gotten groups of like, anywhere from like 5 to like 10, and I think that's a really good amount.
I love that. And I love that it's bringing like everyone together. It's like you're like disconnecting from everything to reconnect to each other. And I think that's really
Yeah.
important, especially in today's age where we're always connected to something.
Yeah, no, it's genuinely like the act of like actively, right, like actively taking a step back and like reclaiming that time for yourself, I think is so important. And like I'm super guilty of, I like bring my phone everywhere with me and I'm like scrolling on Instagram all the time. And like when you're in a place where either A, looking at your phone is gonna mess up your eyes, or B, you don't have service, whatever the case is, when you're like forced to just be in the moment, I think that like I just think it's so beautiful and I think that like more people need to do it. So I'm a big advocate of people going stargazing. There's other ways you can disconnect too, but I always like that's what I like the most about it is being able to disconnect.
I love that. So let's jump over to your photography.
Yeah.
You take such beautiful pictures, and I know that's brought you a lot of, traveling around.
Yeah, so I do a lot of astrophotography now that I'm stargazing a lot. But like I mentioned earlier with like my media friends, also so I started photography in 2018 and I did a lot of concerts and music festivals for a couple of years. Genuinely, I did get pretty burned out on it, but that was mostly because I did it to myself. I was just like saying yes to everything. But yeah, so I started in 2018. Really picked up more of it when I was in St. Louis, when I moved to St. Louis, like just kind of like networked with the right people and started doing more. And then I actually joined a music publication around it was like 2019 through 2023. I was part of a music publication that was based out of Nashville. And because of that, I was able to shoot a lot of music festivals, a lot of them within the country. I do a lot of electronic music. I did do some multi-genre ones, but a lot of the country, I've been everywhere from Palm Springs, California to Gulf Shores, Alabama to Queens, New York, Chicago. So yeah, had a lot of opportunities that way. I did also go to Barcelona for a music festival to do work to do work there for media coverage. And then I also went to Los Cabos for a music festival as well, doing coverage there. And yeah, it's been like a really cool way to kind of like visit different cities. I visited Austin to do media coverage for a music festival, and like I really love Austin. I think Austin's super cool. But also at the same time, it's like Barcelona, for example. I really wish I had spent more time there and just like exploring the city instead of I think I gave myself maybe like an extra day and a half when I wasn't doing festival work.
That's it?
I know. Well, it was because so I had just started a new job. I had just started with a new company for my full-time for my full-time work. So I had just started with a new company. I had just taken 5 days for Los Cabos, and then Barcelona was like 10 days later, and I was like, I cannot take I was like, I can't take this much time off, like as I'm just starting with this company. And my firm, like I can't work outside of the US just because of our like different rules and regulations and stuff like that. So I couldn't even be like, oh, I'm gonna like work remotely, for a little bit. So, and it's a bummer because I know I heard another guest talk about Barcelona. Have you been?
Not yet, not yet. Hopefully next year. Hopefully next year.
Okay. So I mean, it was such a cool city. And like, I went for Primavera Sound, which is a really big music festival in all of Europe, actually, I think. That's what somebody told me. They were like, it's one of the biggest ones in Europe. But there were like 12 stages. It was nuts. It was like, I wish I had done things differently, like I was trying to like go to all the stages and like do a little bit of coverage at each, but I was just walking in pretty much a circle the whole time, like, and not like enjoying myself. And like, I really wish I had kind of like, I would have done if I were to do it again, I would do it differently. But it was still fun. Like, I got to see some really cool artists. Like, I like the multi-genre festivals because I see artists that I wouldn't normally see. Just because it's like not music I'm interested in, but it was still cool. But yeah, it was a lot. And also, like the festival it was from, so I'm used to US festivals, especially if it's a city festival. Camping festivals are another beast that I like can no longer do because I really like my sleep. But city festivals, you start at like somewhere between, it depends on the festival, it depends on the day, but like, sometimes you start at noon, sometimes it's like 5 p.m., right? Whatever it is.
Mhm.
And then you're done. City ordinances kick in. So usually like 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. You can always go to an after party if you want, but so I'm used to that. And then with Primavera Sound, it didn't start until I want to say like 4 or 6 p.m. But then it went until 4 a.m. or 6 a.m. And I remember like, so I was there, it was 3 days. And then I did a fourth day where it was like their like after party. I think the fourth day I was there the longest because I wasn't in work mode anymore. I was just like, oh, I'm gonna enjoy myself. But the other 3 days, I think I tapped out at like 2, 3 a.m. because I was just like, I'm so tired. But they're still going, right? Like, I think the last day, I'm pretty sure the last day, because again, I wasn't in work mode at this point. That final day with their after party, it was like, I think it started at 12 p.m. and I want to say it went until like 4 or 5, 6 a.m. That night I actually stayed out really late and I just remember I like was seeing people coming back from like clubs and everything. Like the sun was rising. I was like, this is so different. Like what I'm used to.
That is insane because the way my bed would be seeing me by midnight every night.
But I
What?
mean, I think when you're in that environment though, right? Like that culture that is very much like the clubs close
Mhm.
at 6 a.m. or the clubs close at 5 and you go home when the sun rises. I think when you're in that culture though, it's like, it's more like the norm and like you feel a little bit more, like, I don't know, like you're a little bit more willing to like push your limits a little bit.
Oh, I would have been so sad. You would have those memes where you have like the bags under your eyes that are like down to your. That would have been me. I would have been like, I'm so
Okay.
tired.
No, but do you remember? Okay, because you and I went to Brooklyn for
That was so
so
crazy.
you can do it. You can do it. So it was, I don't even remember. I think you had said that you wanted to like come to a festival or like a music event with me or something. And I was like, "Hey, there's this Spanish outfit called El Ro puts on these parties and they have something at Brooklyn Mirage." This was what, 2 summers ago, 3 summers ago now, but
Something like
it was a
that.
12-hour party. It was a 12-hour party. It was 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. I think you just went straight to your flight after you just went straight to the airport.
I literally flew in, went straight there, and then flew back out because I had to go to work.
You had your backpack with you, didn't you? Like did you checked your backpack at like the venue, I'm pretty
I sure
sure.
did. Sure did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a time. I was surely struggling though. That 3 a.m. hit, and I was like, whoa, a bed would be great. What are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah. That was, so you have it in you is what I'm saying.
For multiple days, like I had it in me for that one night, and I'm pretty sure I slept like 18 hours after. I was so tired. To do that back to back to back,
Yeah.
I don't know how to. That's really impressive. That is a gift, and I don't have it.
I don't really have it in me anymore. I think that was part of the reasons that like I've super dialed back on like shooting music festivals because they're really fun and like I've met so many people through them. Like, actually, when I was thinking about moving, I was between Salt Lake City and Charlotte. So, when I was originally thinking about moving out of St. Louis, and I just remember I was at a music festival that I was doing media coverage at in Palm Springs, California. And then I was at this like little afters get together, and then somebody who's like lived in Salt Lake City at the time. So I started like talking with them about it. They currently live in Vegas, and then, but they were back a couple months ago for their graduation from one of the universities here. And they hit me up on Instagram. They were like, "Hey, are you still in Salt Lake? Like, would love for you to do my graduation photos." So like, it's one of those things where like I do meet a lot of people through music festivals, and it's been, like I said earlier, it's been a really fun way of traveling and like meeting all these people. But the lifestyle is tough, the late nights, because I was working with a music publication. I had like daily deliverables. So like get home, shower, get home, transfer my photos onto my laptop, start showering, go through some photos, edit them like super quick, just like 10 good ones for the night. And then I would like pass out for a couple of hours. I would wake up, like do like a write up or like do like a social media recap. And then I would just do the whole thing over again. It was tough. It
I'm like,
was
whoa,
tough.
wait a minute. You have to go home and edit, and then no.
Yeah. It was a lot. Like it was I'm glad that I had the experiences that I did. I still keep in touch with some people from the music publication. Like they'll just text them every now and then and like catch up and stuff. So super, super grateful for the experience. Never would have thought I would go to like Barcelona or go to Los Cabos for like media coverage, but also really happy to like kind of have like done that. And like if the opportunity ever presented itself, I would probably do a couple. Like I've shot a couple of music festivals here in Salt Lake, but it's different because I'm not traveling and like I can
Mhm.
sleep in my bed at night. But yeah, it's like I think one year I want to say I did like 10 or 11 festivals in one year, so it's pretty much one a month. And it was just too much. And like, I just remember being like, I think I'm just paying for my pets to live in St. Louis at this point. I was like, I'm like paying for an apartment, paying for a pet sitter. Like, I was like, it's too much. So, super grateful for the experience. Have some amazing memories and stories out of it, but also really glad to kind of be a little bit more choosy with what I'm doing now that I'm a little bit more established.
That's really cool that you got to travel like that though and experience it through a job that I feel like I would have never thought like, oh, if I want to travel, let me just be a photographer for a media company. And it's like, well, that is a way where they'll literally pay for you to travel.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely I think a lot of people don't think about that. Because I also think I just got really lucky with some of it. So like I covered a music festival down in Austin. The first year that I covered that music festival in Austin was also the first year that my media publication did any coverage down there. I did good work where like the festival owners were like super impressed by it, like with like all the coverage and stuff. And then the PR company that was handling that festival's PR, they also were doing PR for all these other festivals. So because they knew me, because they knew my work, they pretty much were like, yeah, like whatever you want to do. Like obviously I would have to apply and stuff and like say what I was gonna do for coverage, but yeah, pretty much was like anytime I wanted to like cover a music festival, I was like a shoe-in for it. I do wish that I had kind of they did PR for a company or for a festival out in Iceland, and I really wish I had kind of like taken advantage of that. It was the year that I left the music publication that I was with. Was also the year that I was moving out to Utah. Was also the year that they first started doing PR for that. And you know how I like really want to see the Northern Lights, so I was like, so cool.
That's so sad.
Yeah.
But you'll
Yeah.
get there.
Yeah.
You'll get there. So
Yeah.
what was your like favorite city to do the music festivals in?
I think I think just because whenever I would travel, it was like so much festival work. I think a lot of my experiences with the city are like very dependent on the festival. But there's
Hmm.
a music festival in Nashville that I really like. It's called Deep Tropics. It's a house festival that also has a base stage now. When I first started doing media work there, it was only house music. It was like one stage. They've grown since then in the last like, what was it, 6 years? Which I'm super proud of them. Like they've grown quite a bit. And I really like that festival because it's like a tight knit community. I would see the same people year over year, and like they were, and it's like, some people I stay connected to on Instagram, but then there are also some people that I would just see. There's this one couple in particular, and I would just see them year over year, and I can't remember their names, and for whatever reason, none of us were like, let's get each other's contact info. But I would just see them year over year. And every single year, it was the same thing. I think it was like 3 years in a row, it was the same thing. We'd be like, wait, I know you. And like, it'd be like that whole, like the Spider-Man, like pointing meme, right? We'd be like,
Yeah.
whoa. And then we would go through the same thing where we'd be like, oh my God, I saw you here last year. What was your name again? I forgot. And then we would literally do the same thing the next year.
That's beautiful.
But yeah, it's a tight knit community there. A lot of the same people go year after year, and I like stuff like that because like I think, kind of similar to what we were talking about earlier with like moving to a new city, right? But like at the base of it, like community is so important. Like regardless of where you are, regardless of how long you're there. So I like places like that where like you have a lot of the same people going because then you can like see your friends and like just stuff like that is like fun.
I
Nashville during
agree.
the summer is hot though. Nashville during the summer is rough.
Like humid rough.
Humid.
Mm.
I was introduced to electrolytes because of that festival, like, and the importance of electrolytes because when you sweat, you're like not just sweating out water, right? I didn't know like electrolytes were a thing before. Because yeah, I remember one year, I think it was like one of the early years, but yeah, one year I was like there and like I think I had done like a pre-party the night before, which was also outside, so it was like also really hot. So I did a pre-party the night before, and I just remember I was like sitting inside a hotel at some point, and I was like talking to the organizers. I was just like, I'm so tired, even though I like slept really well last night. And they were like, oh, you probably need electrolytes. And I was like, oh my God, yeah. And like, I like had some like liquid IV, and now anytime I go to music festivals, or even if I'm going somewhere to like camp, or sorry, not camp, if I'm going somewhere to go hiking and I know it's gonna be hot out, I'm just like, okay, let me like bring electrolytes. So grateful for that lesson.
Great life lessons coming out of that. Man, well, I love your water bottle. That's so cute.
Gotta stay hydrated, right?
No, seriously, I chugged some water when I got back. Do you have any closing advice on anyone maybe looking to get into traveling with work or like balancing that or maybe even just like moving to a new city?
I'll start with the traveling for work. And I kind of touched on this earlier. If you have the capacity and like the capability and you are traveling for work, I would recommend trying to like add extra time to your trip, right? Like again, I think one of my biggest regrets is for Barcelona. For Los Cabos, it was a less intense coverage. Like I just had to do social media stuff. So I wasn't like super in work mode the whole time. And I felt like I got to really enjoy more of Los Cabos. But yeah, Barcelona, I definitely wish I would have had an extra like 2, 3 days, like actually made a week out of it. And then, if you like want to get into like photography, a lot of it's about networking. Obviously, there is some like skill associated, but yeah, networking is also really important with it. And yeah, like I think it's just like trying to find the opportunities where they come. And I did, especially when I was doing the music publication work, I was traveling a lot by myself, which is a little daunting sometimes, right? And like I know you've had a lot of guests on the podcast where it's like they're solo travelers and yeah, it's definitely a little daunting at times, but it's fun, especially I think with like doing media work, especially like it was nice. I didn't really have to like answer to anybody or like try and like meet up with them. I was kind of able to do my own thing, which I do really enjoy. For moving to a new city, I think it's just like I say this to a lot of people, and I think you and I have talked about it before separately as well. But if you're still in your hometown, for example, or your home state, highly recommend leaving. Right? Like just you learn so much about yourself when you're in a new place. Whether you know you're traveling a lot or like if you do move somewhere else, you learn so much about yourself and you expose yourself to like so many different like experiences and people. So I have a lot of friends who are in their mid 20s to mid 30s and they're like contemplating a move and like anytime they ask me about it, I'm just like, you just need to do it. Yes, there are going to be some things that you're going to have to figure out, right? Like figuring out like your community and um like you have your set routine in a certain place and like it's going to be really hard to leave that. But also like I think we all kind of owe it to ourselves to push our boundaries, to try new experiences, to go somewhere new.
Hmm.
It hasn't been, I will say it has not been the easiest trying to like acclimate into like Salt Lake City, but I don't regret it at all. I think it was like I knew when I moved out here because St. Louis I think is a great city. St. Louis is also a
Hmm.
city I think it's really easy to get stuck in.
Hmm.
Like it's affordable, you have your people, you have your places, and I knew if I didn't move when I did, I probably never would leave St. Louis, which is fine. It wasn't the first place I moved, but I was like, well, there's more out there. So, yeah, I think like closing remark is just, you gotta, if there's a part of your like soul that like wants change in your like physical environment, you just have to do it. And I know that could be like a very,
Hmm. I love that. I agree. I think it does. It definitely does do like just moving, exploring, going to new places, seeing new things. It definitely does like change something like you said in your soul. Like you get to expand that part of you where it's like you have like this little box and you're in it and it's like it's time to open the box and find a new one.
yes, yeah, 100%. And yeah, I think like if you have the capability to, right? And like,
Hmm.
it's easier when you're younger, when you don't have as many like responsibilities. We always have responsibilities, right? But it definitely gets harder, I think, when you have like a family and everything. So
Hmm.
now is the time to do it.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Elena. I love you, and thank you so much for coming on. You can never are the ones where it's like